Welcome back to the show. This is Right Wing Rico, and I wanted to go over some topics that hit on what we discussed last night. I've received messages from people who were asking me for context. They wanted more examples. They didn't say I was wrong. They say they do notice a pattern, but remember, pattern recognition, they tell you, is profiling. And they don't want to, they want you to think that profiling somebody based on their behaviors or even racially profiling people or sexuality profiling people is bad. Personally, from what we've seen, there have been terror attacks piling up from people that are from this trans background community. I do believe in profiling them. It's the healthy thing to do. These are troubled individuals with extreme mental issues, gender dysphoria, but it's a shame when the people around you are also playing into your fantasy and affirming it. It's still a fantasy, even if the people around you agree with you and affirm it. And that creates an issue with there's a break from reality and fantasy. And you can understand some of these people, they describe themselves before they commit these crimes that they don't know if they're coming or going. They don't know where they are. They don't know who they are. They don't know what's real. They don't know what's fake. And affirming these people is not helping them. I wanted to make out a point is that this is a war for children, but it's between the gay world and the straight world. These are countries that are run by either gay people or straight people. The World Economic Forum is above every single country that is pushing the gay agenda because the men at the top of the World Economic Forum are gay themselves. You got to understand the war that you're fighting. It's not between countries. It's not between Democrats or Republicans. It's between people who want to protect kids and people who want to harm kids. That's what this is all about. This is children. They literally shut down the entire world. They would rather see the world go into a nuclear hellfire than to be prevented from having sexual relations with children. And that's what you see here. For example, this is in Australia. That is an obvious boy, and this is a girl. And what they're trying to tell you is that they want, this is a woke commercial encouraging female athletes to let men compete in their sports. Australia is a part of the West. You guys are not noticing because you live in your own bubble. The world is not English speaking. The world is not all white. It's a very small population of the world that will be considered white. And there's only certain nations. It's no coincidence that they're pushing the gay and trans ideology in English-speaking white countries for the most part only. There's only an exception with France. Germany is not even pushing it that hard. It's a little pushback, and they're trying to now. But when I lived in Germany, it was unheard of. For the most part, any countries that were formerly under the Commonwealth are now under attack by the World Economic Forum, pushing the gay and trans agenda on your children. Remember, there is a depopulation agenda approved by the World Economic Forum. There is a mandate to push to turn your child gay or trans means that your child will eventually self-delete with suicide, and they will never have children and reproduce. Even if they're confused, they will not be able to pair with another woman or with a man. They will not be able to build a bond in a family. They will not reproduce. We are in a generation right now where there are no more families. But this is only happening in your English-speaking Western country, which is a small fraction of the world. You don't believe me?
As we celebrate Pride on the progress we've made over these past years, there's still work to be done. So to those of you out there who are still working against equal rights, here's a message for you. You think we're sinful? You fight against our rights. You say we all lead lives you can't respect. But you're just frightened. You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked. Honey, just this once, you're correct.
Just this once, you're correct. I think he's talking to me. If you listen to the video, if you listen to the rest of the video, if you just joined, this is exactly what I'm saying is happening. And he's saying that I'm correct. He is also a victim. Someone perversed him and turned him into who he is. He's openly admitting with the rest of the men in his gay men's choir that they are coming for your children. These songs are made in English. There is no French or German or Chinese or Russian version of this song. This is being pushed in Anglo, white, English-speaking nations, and there's only a few. Let's see here. List of the countries that support pride parades in their country. All of North America, the United States, Canada, and Mexico. In Europe, all of Europe. But then that's it. There's only what, five countries in Latin America out of what, 20? And then Africa, there's only one country out of what, 50? And then out of the entire Middle East, Israel. Israel is the only one. There's no way you cannot see the pattern. Australia and New Zealand, English speaking. South Africa, English speaking. Israel, English speaking for the most part. All of these countries in Europe, the UK, France, for the most part, a lot of them do speak English. They do have their own languages, but they're Western countries, English speaking. Primarily in the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, is in South Africa. They're in Israel, and they're pushing this trans gay agenda because they want your kids. So again, when someone asked me yesterday to give them more context and to show them examples, I just remind them of the public examples that they just ignore.
Convert your children.
He said, will convert your children. It happens bit by bit. It's something suddenly, and you will barely notice it. What he's talking to is the parents. He's saying, as a parent, you're not going to notice these sudden changes in your child. The teachers, the school administrators, the counselors, they're converting your child underneath your nose to join their side. Because once you're gay, there's a 99% chance you're going to be a Democrat. You're going to lean towards victimhood. It goes the same way with mixed couples. If you have a child, your dad could be from England, your mom could be from Africa. You are going to consider yourself a slave. You are going to lean into the victimhood. You're never going to say, well, I'm mixed with the slave master and the slave. You're going to just want to automatically identify with the slave, but not with the master. So you want to go down. And that's why now, every time you look up, they push interracial relationships because they want you to have that victimhood, that sense of alienation where you want to fit in. It's what autistic kids go through, who they convince are gay or trans. That's who these men used to be in school. They did studies on this in Germany. They did studies on this in America. They've done studies on this. And I've read a lot of them. Now I'm just sharing it with you. Let's finish the rest of this song. You can keep them from disco, but what about San Francisco?
Oh, we can wear pleated pants, we don't care. tolerant and fair.
Will convert your children. We will make them tolerant and fair. So then, as a parent, what do? You're just giving birth to children to turn them over to men who are going to do disgusting and horrible things to them. But this is the catcher, and this is how it goes in the United States right now. If you can convince your kid that they're trans, the waters become muddy, and they're not allowed to prosecute you as a sexual offender. You don't have to register on the offenders list if you're caught with a child who has this mental illness. Because if you can change your gender, then you can change your age. These are things that you have to consider when you're deciding who you're going to leave your children with. Again, this is a war between gays and straight people over children. The gays don't have children. They're fighting for your children. You're fighting to protect your children from them. Exposing them to this propaganda, your children will be curious and likely guide themselves over there if they do not have a strong foundation and strong and mentally strong parents at home. There are no more families right now in the United States. Most men that I know, my age, have a passport and they're looking for wives outside of the country. The family unit in America is destroyed because the mind of the woman is destroyed. Women now are saying that they want to see men in women's sports. Women. They no longer believe men are the problem. They actually want to be replaced with men. When you go out to a bar, to a club, the women you want to talk to, there's usually a gay trans man in their group. That disqualifies most of these women from getting a boyfriend or having someone be with them because they're on the other side. Everyone knows you can't date or marry a liberal woman because if you're in a relationship, you want things to be traditional. You cannot have that with those women. So these women that are having these children and you leave them because you can't be with them. Well, what comes next is she wants to feel validated and fit in. And then your son is now wearing a wig. And there are men like this that are waiting for your son to come around.
At first, I didn't get why you'd be so scared of us turning our children into accepting and caring. I see no way. Just like you worried, they'll change their group of friends. You won't approve of where they go at night to protest.
This video is 3 years old, and they're talking about one of the biggest parts of being gay or when they start to brainwash your children is they get them to protest. Not saying that they have grievances or there's actual things that need to be protested. It's just a part of their culture. It gives them validation. They convince your children to protest for anything. If you're protesting, you're not working. If you're protesting, you're a victim. If you're talking about racism and oppression, you're a victim and you're likely gay. Just the whole thought of another man, just because he's white, being able to oppress you and hold you down, it's homoerotic, gay mental fantasies that I see a lot of these, especially black men, when they get on TV and they start crying about it. It just shows you that full circle. This is all connected. Again, these are the countries that are pushing this agenda. This is let's see here. Out of 190 countries, this is 40. What I'm telling you is that the world is not gay. Where you live is, and they are coming for your kids. That's the bottom line. And this is a war, so you're going to have to fight to protect them, or you're going to lose them to these guys. You're going to lose your children to these perverts.
When you be disgusted, when they start finding things online that you can't find, like information, it's you'll still be alright. will convert your children. Yes, we will. Reaching one.
All of the parents of these men failed to protect their children from perverts who would come after them. These are all victims, and these victims have victimized others. The same way they say hurt people hurt people. So when you ask for context about my live from last night and you want to see examples because it's hard to believe, it's documented. They're coming for your kids, and if you don't really love your kids and you don't really care what happens to them, just ignore this. Don't share the video, don't like, don't subscribe. Go on with your day. But they're here. They're here. You know, you got a country, the United States is not a gay country. We were just ran by gay people. Now we have Trump back in office. Remember, all this gay stuff and trans stuff started around 2021 when Biden took over, and then the push began. They tried to assassinate Trump so that he could not stop it. Now that we see what's going on, we realize Russia is not even our enemy. Russia's our friend. Russia is a country of straight men fighting to protect children. And so is the United States. Unfortunately, we have a group within our country who is fighting to hurt kids. We have to protect children from them by any means necessary. And if there is going to be a civil war, like I've said for the past 3 years, it's going to be fought over kids. It's going to be fought between people who want to take children to pride parades versus people who do not. It is not going to be over even your ideology when it comes to politics. Do you agree with adults having sexual relationships with children or not? You'll be surprised if you ask a Democrat that they won't answer the question because they cannot without exposing themselves. You're not asking the right questions because some of these answers are so scary that you really don't even want them to know. You don't want to hear the truth from their mouth because, well, then how can you work with them? How can you live next door to them? How can you be friends with them and stay neutral, knowing what's going on in their heart? And now they're peeking their heads out of the closet because they feel emboldened by all these people attacking Trump and Elon Musk because we're doing audits on the government and we're not funding pride and gay stuff in different parts of the world. Now you hate Trump and you hate Elon fucking Musk for doing audits that are taking money away from nonsensical, un-American programs pushing gay and trans stuff, even on animals, not just your kids, on animals. Okay, I'll be back. We have another episode coming up shortly. I just wanted to give more context about the show last night. Read the title, read the description, read the description and the hashtags, share the video, like and subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, like the page. We're building up a new following. I'm not monetized, so follow our sponsors as well. Thank you, and we'll be back shortly.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.